This is going to be probably one of the hardest things I have ever had to say. I was wrong. I thought the last thing the world needed was another Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I thought there was no way in heck it was going to be good. There's no way in heck they were going to try to make an interesting movie. All they were going to try to do was to make something that would make money. And yet, I was pleasantly surprised.
Well, thanks a lot, past me. Thanks so much. I blame this entire new, unnecessary pirate sequel on you. It's lazy time and we're gonna do a review. Yes, we're gonna review. I'll talk about movies and comics too. Let's all go watch the review. Hello everybody, how's it going? I am Lazy Dude and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we are reviewing Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales, but a dead franchise apparently does. Can you believe it's been 6 years since the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie? Heck, if you want to feel really old, it's been 14 years since the first one came out. Now I just want to say, right off the bat, that I don't today feel the way I did about the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie as you saw I did back then. It was one of those movies where when I saw it I thought, wow, I didn't hate it, that must mean I like it, right? Well, let me tell you this. It's been quite a few years since I've seen it last, but I could not tell you one line from that movie. So looking at it now, what do I think about it? I think it probably was an unnecessary sequel that didn't need to happen. And speaking of unnecessary sequels that didn't need to happen, let's talk about this movie. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. That's right, this is the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie. What's the basic story? Captain Jack Sparrow is a mess, again. He's getting hounded by a ghost pirate, again. And he is on the run, and he runs into a boring side character who's just a good guy, again. For the 3rd time. And he comes across a smart, spunky female. Again. The next Pirates of the Caribbean movie should be Pirates of the Caribbean, treading the same old waters we've done before. It seems like whenever I watch anybody else's reviews on this movie, they all start with the same thing. I loved the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Loved it, thought the humor was great in it, the characters were fun, and I liked to see where it went, and it was a fun little adventure flick. And one of the things that I do agree on my past review that I do talk about is that the Pirates of the Caribbean took themselves a little bit too seriously. Not with gravity or whatnot, because they still defy that at every corner, but they took themselves too seriously in terms of what their story they were telling. There was, the first Pirates of the Caribbean is just a fun little pirate movie. It's nothing epic, but the next movie they tried to be Lord of the Rings and took themselves so seriously, and it really bogged the franchise down. And then on Stranger Tides, I think one of the reasons why I was so positive in my review of that the first time I reviewed it is because it wasn't that anymore. It was going back to the cheesiness. The problem was it was also very forgetful, and none of the characters left that much of an impact on you. So what's this movie's problem that I'm being so bitter to it right off the start? I think it's kind of what I've said. We're trudging a lot of the same familiar waters. The only problem is the pacing in this film is awful. It's just awful. There is little setup of any characters. And since they made these characters so similar to ones in the past, that makes it very easy to look at them and say, oh yeah, I don't really get what they're about, and there's just yelled at me and then, okay, moving on. For example, in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, we had Will Turner, played by Orlando Bloom. In this one, we have Henry Turner, played by discount Orlando Bloom. I actually like the twist of having, his son all grown up now and now is trying to free him from the curse. I think that's actually an interesting idea, because one of the things that I actually like, I still, to this day, I kind of still like the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I'm not going to defend it as a good movie, but I enjoy it. And one of the things I really thought was so sad is Because he can only see his wife once every 10 years. That's so sad. And I like that his son kind of gets obsessed with the occult and curses and whatnot because he wants to free his father of that. That seems to be a very logical place to take it. The problem is we're not really given a whole lot of setup time with that. We'll turn to the first one. We see him working at a blacksmith, that he's really good at his job, that his guardian is just like a drunk that is just passed up on the floor, but still gets credit for all the amazing swords that Will Turner makes. And Will is like, actually, like, you know what, I'm okay with that. You know, he's humble. We get a lot of setup with him when he's introduced to Jack Sparrow. He's attacking him. He's like, you know, I don't like pirates. We get a whole lot of setup. From here, we get like one quick scene with him as a kid. And then we go flash forward, and then he's like, yelling, like, all of it, we just throw him right into the fire, like, okay, he meets Oliver. Like, just a few seconds like after we meet him, there's no time to set up what he's like, what his humor is like, what his personality is. He humble? I don't know. Is he actually a nice guy, or is he kind of sleazy? I don't know. I don't know. Is he a eunuch? I don't know. Then let's compare Elizabeth Swann. We got a lot of time in the first movie to learn about Elizabeth Swann. How she, you know, she doesn't like the regular means. She's a little adventurous. She actually finds pirates fascinating. We got a lot of time from, you know, seeing her as a kid to seeing her as an adult. You know, maybe she's not the best well-written character, but we get a good idea of what she's like. And then, what's the introducing scene for her in this? Well, she's in prison, and she's getting talked to by a priest. He's like, you're a witch. She's like, no, I'm a woman of science, witch. And that's it. That's all the introduction we get. I guess they go a little bit into it later on, but it's so rushed, and it's just like, it's kind of have that one and done syndrome where they just say it and so you accept it. You got to accept it because they're not going to go back to it. They're just going to continue on. And because they said it, they said she's into science. We don't know why she's into science. We don't know who trained her in that. Did she learn to read on her own? How did she get along in life? We don't know. How is science even a word that people really said a whole lot back then? Why is she so well read? How did she grow up like this? And then I'm thinking about other stuff like Henry Turner. Like, why is Henry Turner, he's a man on the sea, but he's also studying, you know, curses and occult, but he's not an officer or anything. He's just a guy that, you know, rows the boats and pulls on the anchor and whatnot. And I'm thinking, well, why? You know, his mother is Elizabeth Swann, and her father was a governor, or something of the governor. And so, why shouldn't he have been, like, you know, he has, you know, not royal blood, but, you know, he's obviously should be connected to a well-loved family. He shouldn't start out that low on the totem pole. But they just throw lines at you without ever having to experience it. Like, this is, you don't want to get kicked off another ship, do you, Turner? And I'm like, well, why was he kicked off the other ships? Oh, we're just going to continue on, we're not going to address that? Okay, whatever. Basically, there's not a whole lot of character development at all. And now we come to, I think, probably the franchise's biggest problem. Captain Jack Sparrow. I'm going to say this right here, right now. You know why the first Pirates of the Caribbean was so good? Because it wasn't Captain Jack Sparrow's movie. Yeah, he wasn't the main character. He was one of the main characters, but it wasn't his story really being told. I mean, part of it was with him versus Balboa, so that was a big thing. But if you think about it, the main characters and the main plot going on was Will and Elizabeth. They were the characters we were following. Captain Jack Sparrow was the guy stealing the show because the focus wasn't on him, the plot wasn't relying on him, and he was just could show up, say the random thing, but we weren't ever distracted because we would know that he was supposed to be a distraction, that it wasn't him that we were relying the plot on. Now we are. We have been for a while, and I don't think Captain Jack Sparrow is a character who you should really rely on that, because his character doesn't fit that mold. At the end of this film, I'm not going to spoil it, but at the end of this film, there's like a scene where all these characters are getting together and they're all living, and Captain Jack Sparrow's off watching on his ship. I'm like, yeah, he really didn't have any part in this side of the story, which was a big part of the story. Captain Jack Sparrow should not be the main character in these movies, and I've always felt that. And that's partially the reason is because main characters in story usually have to be a bit more boring. So the straight-edge character, like a Will Turner, is more fitting for the main character role because it allows, the side character like Jack Sparrow to be more out there, to be more, he can do the dastardly things, and it doesn't really matter that much because he's not the hero of the film. He's just the quirky secondary main character. What about the villain? Well, let's take it. Salazar. I keep on wanting to say Solovar, but I know that's just the white ape from Flash. But anyway, the Ghost Captain. Don't get me wrong, there are some cool effects with him. A lot of it feels like it was ripped off of other things. And by other things, I mean other Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Ghost pirates who couldn't be killed. Seen it. This certain pirate cannot walk on land, can only be on the sea. Seen it. He's somebody who wants revenge on Captain Jack Sparrow. I've seen this. Look, I know that there's only a limited amount of things where you can have one pirate come into clash with Captain Jack Sparrow. But you know what the most entertaining scene in this movie was? It was the flashback where we see a young Captain Jack Sparrow go up against this captain and outsmart him. I kind of want to see that Captain Jack Sparrow again. This one always seems to be bumbling and moving along, and there's never seems to actually know what he's doing. Honestly, if you look at the end, he barely did anything in the end. But if you think about it, the ending of this movie has all the other characters do way more than Captain Jack Sparrow does. And that would be fine if he wasn't treated like it was his story we were telling. And there's way too many coincidences and just stuff here that doesn't make any sense, okay? For example, Captain Salazar is trapped into this world where his ship crashed and he was killed. But he's trapped there, and he says, "Oh, the only way I can get out is if Jack Sparrow gives up his compass." And I'm like, wait a minute, what? They've established that the compass is just something that points to your heart's desire. What the heck is this? What? But sure enough, Captain Jack Sparrow walks over and is, really desperate for a drink, so he tries to trade his compass. But what a coincidence! First of all, there should be no way that Captain Salazar knows that the compass would let them out. There's no way he would be able to know that. Who's telling him this? Is he in this, place going I bet if he gave up that compass, we would be able to get out of here. And everyone around him was like, oh, sounds about right. I mean, the chances that he just says this to this Henry Turner guy, he just says this to him if only Jack Sparrow gave up his compass, we would be out. And then 2 minutes later in the film, he gives it up. A compass that he's held on for dear life for all of these films. What a coincidence. Now, I guess Javier Bardem does actually a pretty good job. He's doing his best, but it just doesn't work because Captain Jack Sparrow don't have the connection that he and Barbossa had. They don't get a chance to work off of each other earlier in the film like he and Davy Jones had, or even Blackbeard had. He's just always oh, I'm going to get you. And he's oh, no, you're not, mate. I don't hate this film that much. This is just more an unnecessary film. It doesn't give us anything that the original movies haven't already. It's pretty forgetful. I can't really tell you one funny line. I think that Pirates of the Caribbean's humor's the best when it's just a bunch of stuff are happening all at once, and then it's just somebody says something random and it's funny. It was just you laugh, but then the scene's moving on, which doesn't leave you a whole lot of memorable moments. I think the first one's the only one who has memorable, humorous moments. Where these ones, I don't really have them. And as for action moments, they're so over the top. Once again, give me a sword fight. I don't need all this all over the place, jumping on cannons thing going on here. What the... Just give me a sword fight where I can see the action, feel the anticipation, and feel that each of the characters are using their best wits to fight each other. I don't need another sword fight from the weird world of CGI. Please. So my rating for Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales is a 4 out of 10. This is a below average movie. I don't like this movie. I don't hate this movie. It's just another forgetful, unnecessary film. I don't want any more in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I feel they're just going to retread more and do the same thing. I think the biggest mistake the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise ever did was make Johnny Depp's character the main character. Now, he could have still been the scene stealer, to be sure, but by making him the main character, it makes his dislikable attributes more dislikable and less quirky fun because he's the side character. And it makes the straight man more boring because he doesn't even have an important plot in the film. Is there any reason to see it? Not really. I mean, as I said, you've seen the other Pirates of the Caribbean films, you've seen this one, you just don't know it yet. So that's my thoughts of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. I want the franchise to be over with. There's nothing more that you guys can tell, or at least nothing more that you're trying to tell. Still trying to tell the same movies and still coming up short. So, I'm done with you, Pirates. I might come back and visit the first one fondly. I might come back and watch the three-way sword fight scene in Dead Man's Chest. But beyond that, I'm done. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Lazy Dude. Adios. Be sure to check out some of these other videos on my channel. And wait for more coming soon.